Good, Adam. How are you?
Good. Hey, can you give us some sense on what the offseason might look like in terms of player acquisitions? Will it look a lot like last year? Will it look more like 2 years ago? Can you just give us some sense as to what you're thinking right now at this early stage, what the offseason might look like?
Are you just talking about like from a
I'm sorry, Brad. Brad, I'll have one quick follow up too. Sorry,
are you,
Brad.
are you talking from a like a pandemic standpoint or from a
No, just player acquisition, free
yeah,
agency. What that might, keeping the roster intact,
yeah.
those kinds of things.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly every year is different because of your cap situation and what you have and what you need to do. And we'll get through this game and we've always, how we kind of operate here, Adam. We always have a couple different roadmaps to get us where we want to be, and we'll certainly have some tough decisions to make in regards to trying to keep as many players on this team intact. And every year is different, every year is unique, and there'll be new challenges that we face this year as opposed to last year, and there'll be some of the bigger contracts will start to come in. But we've been working all year in regards to looking forward to the draft and the off season, and we'll have a good plan in place. And like I said, sometimes these plans are dependent on how the dominoes fall elsewhere with certain players and certain moves and what have you. But that's why you always have to be prepared. And we were prepared last year for some different scenarios, and fortunately for us, they all worked out. And we'll have a similar game plan. And if it doesn't work out as well as it did last year, we'll have a backup plan and be ready to go. So like every year, it'll be different and unique. But as coach would say, we look forward to the challenge.
And Sammy Watkins is a guy you've really fought to get here twice, really. When you first signed him as a free agent, and then last year to keep him here on the or restructured contract. Does he have a place here? Do you feel like going forward?
Well, I mean, I hope so. I mean, again, every year is different and unique, but Sammy's done what Sammy's needed to do in regards to, we brought him here, and you saw the postseason he had his first year, and shoot, I think he played with almost a broken foot in that New England game here at Arrowhead, and then what he did last year in the playoffs, Tennessee game, and the Super Bowl, and hopefully what he's going to do on Sunday. He's as you've heard, he's trending upward, and but Sammy's a big part of this offense, and when he's healthy, we're better. And if there's a way we can make it work again, we'll certainly try to do that. Love having him around, and he's a cool person to be around. You learn a lot from him. He has a different approach and a way about him that I find unique and kind of captivating at times. But he's a great player, and we have all known he's had some injuries here and there. But when he's on the field, we're better. And if there's any way we can keep him here, we'll certainly try to do that.
Let's go next to Sam McDowell. Good, Sam.
Hey, Brad, how are you?
Good, Sam. How you doing?
Good. And Brad, I've got a couple things. First, I wanted to just ask you about the salary cap. I mean, you mentioned those roadmaps. How difficult is it to design those with the number up in the air right now?
Well, yeah, it's different, and we've even talked about having different game plans that I'm pretty sure won't be lower than 175, but it could be anywhere from 75 to 85, 95. Don't think it'll get much higher than that. But even from 75 to 95, it's a big deal for us. So that's challenging. And fortunately I have some good people I work with, Brent Tillis and Chris Shea. We've been going through some different models, a few at 75, a few at 80, 85, 90, 95. So, they tell me anything over 180, 85, and we're in pretty good shape. So, but we're prepared if it's 175 too. So, it's difficult. But at the same time, fortunately we've had a great season, and we're all kind of locked in on the Super Bowl, but those guys are hard at work and going through some different scenarios, and we'll have some different decisions that we need to make to put the best roster that we think possible for next season. And it'll be a challenging offseason. They all are, just because they all present unique challenges, but it's certainly from a standpoint of scenarios, it makes it difficult. But again, I think especially after last year, I think once you go through an offseason like last year, I think you're prepared for anything. So we've had the benefit of between the unknown cap to virtual draft, I really think last year's offseason kind of prepared us for every scenario. So it'll be challenging, but again, our guys are hard at work at coming up with different solutions to problems.
My second question I wanted to ask about Patrick. Obviously you guys picked out a guy who was the right player for this team, but what do you feel like makes him also just the right person for this team in this city?
Well, I mean, he's humble, he's grounded. It's one of the most fascinating things about Pat, aside from his amazing play on Sundays and the way he works is, he is very much similar to the head coach in regards to, you never see, the guy is always the same person. And I think consistency is so hard. And, you see it in regards to having success or not having success. People change who they are, how they do things. And, after being a league MVP in 18 and then coming back and being Super Bowl MVP in 19 and the contract and all the different corporate sponsors pulling at him, he's, and I mean this genuinely, he's still the same person. And to me, that's one of the most fascinating things about him. He's still a yes or no sir to the coaches, and, he still treats people with the utmost respect. He knows that he has a responsibility that's bigger than just football on Sundays, that people look up to him. He's embraced that. He's embraced all of these different obligations with the same type of, humility and grace. So I think that's the cool thing. And listen, he'd be a great fit for any organization, and anybody would be thrilled to have him. We're the lucky ones. So, but I mean, the kid, I think is just the same person like Andy. People always talk about Andy never being too high or too low, and Pat's always too high because he's always, energetic and exciting, but similar in the sense that he's always the same person. I mean, you're not getting a Patrick on a Monday versus Patrick on a Sunday. I mean, you're getting the same person every day. A lot of energy, a lot of excitement, loves being part, being part of the gang, and just, joking around, goofing around, but being so super serious when it comes to studying, so competitive on Sunday. And, that's the cool thing, that none of this fame, money, fortune, nothing has changed him.
Let's go next to Harold Kuntz. Go ahead, Harold.
Hey, Brett, hope you're doing okay.
Good, Harold. How are you doing?
Good, man. Hey, you kind of mentioned this just a little bit, but with all the players that kind of are taking less money in this, like Chris Jones has alluded to it, how Pat texted him and said, all right, I'm going to give you a little bit. And then your success with finding some of the guys later in the rounds, and even like a Treshawn Wharton, who's an undrafted free agent. Does that make you kind of think that the sustained success model that you've had is kind of going to be on for the next 5 to 10 years here, with the buy-in with the players, and also the fact that you had a success rate getting some of those guys in the late rounds?
Well, listen, I think that people want to play with Pat Mahomes. I think that helps. I think players in general are competitive, and they love the opportunity to play on big stages and on national TV games. And I think that when you have sustained success and you play with a coach like Andy and a player like Pat, I think that those players know that coming here, they'll get a chance to win, but they'll also play on the brightest, the biggest stages with the brightest lights. So I think that in itself drives out the competitive nature of players wanting to come here and be on that stage. And with that, players have to certainly balance things. And when you have a talented roster, you're not going to have as much flexibility sometimes with teams that are rebuilding or going in a different direction. And, we'll stay aggressive. And, that's a good, tell you what, though, that's a good pitch to throw at players that come here and play for Andy Reid and play for Pat Mahomes. So, at the end of the day, though, it's a business. I don't know if it'll make people just come here, but I think that all the kind of like our team, all the close ones, I think we'll get, right? I think the close ones, contract wise, and, I think that we're going to have all that swing in our favor. Now, I don't think I'm naive enough to think that, with our cap situation, that we can go out there and sign a, $14 million, $15 million addition because he wants to play here. But I think, the reality of it is, I think players that have similar offers or maybe just a tick off, I certainly think that we have a lot of momentum on our side.
Let's go next to Seren Petro. Go ahead, Seren.
Brett, I'm curious, if all the success you guys have had, you seem to not lose anyone, right? You're not losing guys from your front office. We talked to Eric Bieniemy, one of the biggest subjects at the Super Bowl, but you're not losing assistant coaches either. I mean, do you sometimes kind of sit there and just laugh like, hey, they're making this easy for us by not stripping away some of the good people you guys have all put in place?
Well, listen, I don't know if I laugh, but I think that that's really been, you can say that the key to our success is the continuity. And, it's a tough profession. It's tough to win week in and week out. But, when you have a coaching staff that has worked together for so many years, and you have a personnel staff, I mean, even the guys that I've worked with, I mean, we've had different roles, but we've all been here since I got here in 13. And really, I mean, I feel very fortunate. I mean, these people deserve opportunities. I mean, Eric Bieniemy should be a head coach, and I'm going to have some people on my staff eventually get opportunities because I think that they're great. But I mean, for Kansas City and our fans, it's I hate to say this again because they're all deserving of these opportunities, but I mean, it's been great for us because we got really good people in our building, and both coaching staff and player personnel staff. And I think it's really been probably one of the biggest key success is the continuity and the fact that we have such a model in place that guys know exactly how we do things from coaching. We go to St. Joe's from a coaching aspect to installations and plays to our personnel to our meeting structure to what we're looking for. And our personnel staff knows our coaches so well. I mean, we can literally bring a player on a board and talk about how this player season. We can either say, no, he's not a fit. Let's not even waste our time. Or yeah, he'll be a fit. Let's watch this guy, because our personnel staff they know our coaching staffs. They know the coaches that have to be, certain GPA, and some certain coaches that, hey, listen, but we know that. And when you have new staffs that are trying to get formed, there's a feeling out period, but we've gone through that for so long, and I think we operate at a high level on both sides just because there's that trust that's built up over a decade. And for us it's been a blessing. Hate it for those guys because they deserve their opportunities, but for me, and probably coaches say the same thing, that's secretly that's we're happy. Again, it's kind of that bittersweet deal where I'm thrilled that EB's still here. I love the guy. I love what he brings to our organization. I love seeing him on practice. I mean, he gets me fired up, and I love the fact that guys like Mike Bergonzi and Brant Tillis are still here because they're really good at what they do. But at the same time, it's only a matter of time before these guys go on and get their opportunities.
Let's go next to Nate Taylor. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Brett. I have two. Hey, man, I have two quick questions for you. Given the constraints of this year, and like you mentioned, the continuity, what do you think is the most impressive thing your front office has done once you understood that you guys were going to have to work within the constraints of a pandemic? And then, Brad, I'll have a follow-up.
Well, I mean, I think, the job that our staff did in the offseason and just being creative with these contracts. And, anytime you have success at any level, it's always a multi-party reasoning, right? So, I think we had some daunting tasks ahead of us with Pat and Chris and Tyreek, and the fact that our guys here, we were able to come together and come up with some creative ideas and work through that. I think was certainly super impressive. Those guys did a great job, and they spent a lot of time preparing for that. But again, it takes two to make these things happen. So, you equally have to give credit to the players, their mindset, their agents, their mindset, and wanting to get things done. But I think the off season, I don't think a lot of people would have thought we were able to pull that off. And shoot, there were times where I didn't think we can pull it off. I mean, even we were going through Pat's, with Chris and Travis, I didn't think we can pull it off. But, we kept tweaking ideas and concepts. So certainly credit to Brant and to Chris for, keep throwing darts at the board there. But again, at the end of the day, the players have to be in the right mindset, and they got to be motivated to be willing to work and structure things the right way for us. And so we got the added benefit of having, players that were wired like that and their agents driven to keep them here.
Yeah. And secondly, because you've worked alongside Andy for so long, Brett, what did you see from your perspective that was the greatest challenge that Andy had to overcome this year in trying to get you guys to be repeat champions?
Andy is such a, you guys know him. He's so detailed, and he's such a a technician, he loves having that hands-on. I mean, he loves getting out there. He loves coaching. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, he always says that he's a teacher. So it was challenging, I think, for him. You know, a lot of people don't care about the OTAs or put much stock in it, but I mean, it ripped his heart out when he didn't have OTAs and he didn't have these young guys here. And, you know, so you wondered how the whole virtual off season, and even though, and, you know, there was a benefit of having a lot back, but, you know, we did bring in some, you know, a bunch of rookies that played for us. And again, Andy is such a hands-on teacher and developer of talent that, you know, and I feel like Spags is that way, and so is EB. I mean, shoot, I guess most of the coaches are, but I think that was challenging, not having an entire off season, doing everything virtually, and then, you know, the eliminating the distractions. I mean, we're going to play a whole season. Are we going to get cut off 8 weeks into this? Just keeping the guys, you know, locked in and focused. And again, our staff from top to bottom and Rick and his crew just preparing our players and our staff to handle the unknown and be adaptive and be fluid throughout this process. I mean, it was challenging, but, you know, I think we all had that mindset that, you know, look, at the end of the day, we're just blessed and fortunate that we get to do what we do. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, taking a step back. I mean, you know, this has just been a tough time, you know, for the country and, you know, people in regards to what they've had to go through. So, you know, if we have to make some adjustments to play football, I mean, let's go, you know, and at the end of the day, we're all just blessed and fortunate to have this opportunity.
We'll go last to Matt McMullen. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Brett, you touched on your rookies, but I want to ask you further about them. Obviously, with the offseason, a lot of limitations in terms of your ability to evaluate, go talk to guys and all that, but a pretty exciting rookie class despite all of that. How excited are you about your rookies, from guys like Clyde all the way down to UDFAs like Tershawn and Tommy? And just how proud are you of your guys, both from a evaluation standpoint and a development standpoint, despite all the limitations, that they've produced a pretty solid rookie class here?
Yeah, I mean, listen, they've been great. And, I'm going to hop back and talk about Pat again, only because in the context of this rookie question, you know, my answer to Pat and being the same person, we were literally in the training room the other day and out of nowhere, I mean, this is Pat getting ready to play Super Bowl MVP. You know, he bumped me. He's like, "Hey, how's Niang doing?" You know, and so we're anxious to get him back too. But that just shows you, like, Pat is the same person. I mean, you think he'd have a million things on his mind, but to ask me on Monday morning how Niang was doing I thought was interesting. But look, I mean, this has been a great class for us. Certainly all these guys, I think, have come in and contributed. And from Clyde to Willie, it's unfortunate that, you know, Willie has, you know, got the knee fixed, but he'll be ready to go. I don't think it's a serious injury, but from Clyde to Willie to certainly LJ and Mike Dana, Wharton, Tommy Towson. Listen, it was a great class, and I think it's a tribute to the staff and just, again, just like our entire organization, being fluid and adaptive and really finding ways to make communication better throughout that process last year. Jumped on a lot of Zoom calls with coaches, and you know, we had to work around not getting players in the building and not being able to go there and work some of these players out. But I think the technology allowed for even more. You know, and we have such a great relationship with our coaches, and we're always on the same page. But, you know, typically when we bring a player into the building, we'll do our thing, and then he'll go off and do his thing with the coaches, and then we'll come together and talk about the person, the player, the fit, all that stuff. But we kind of did that all in one this past offseason because we were all in the Zoom call together. So I think that made the process a little bit more efficient. And there are some things that I think we've learned through that process that we'll probably stick to next year. But I think it's just a good job of the player personnel staff and the coaching staff, you know, working through non-ideal times and finding a way to communicate and talk about things that they see on tape. And, you know, a lot of these guys like Mike Dana, he didn't go to the combine. We didn't have a pro day. We didn't have a medical on him. So, you know, again, you know, trusting the sources and trusting the people that work in the building, all that had to come into play. And you know, I think it just showed the talent on both sides, both the coaching staff to get it out of these guys without OTAs and our player personnel staff to develop these guys. Some we had no verifieds on.